The banquet hall in Busan glittered with crystal chandeliers, but Ji Seok felt nothing as he lifted his glass. 7 years of success, 7 years of empty nights. Then his phone buzzed, an unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Uncle, are you really our daddy?" Ji Seok froze mid-step, his glass nearly slipping from his fingers. The voice was small, trembling, achingly familiar in a way he couldn't explain. "Who is this?" he whispered, moving away from the crowd toward a quiet corner of the hall. "My name was Daniel. My mommy, she fell down. She's not waking up. I found your number inside her diary. Are you our daddy?" Before Ji Seok could respond, 2 other voices shouted in the background, identical in pitch, desperate and small. "Tell Daddy to come quickly. Mommy needs help." The phone slipped from Ji Seok's hand and clattered onto the marble floor. His heart pounded so violently he thought it would break through his chest. 3 children, 3 voices, all calling him Daddy. Ji Seok snatched the phone back up. "Where are you? Tell me your address right now." The boy, sniffling, recited an address on the outskirts of Busan, in a modest neighborhood Ji Seok had never once visited in his life of penthouses and boardrooms. Without a word to his father's business associates, without excusing himself from the banquet, Ji Seok sprinted out into the night, leaving behind the empire that had defined him for 7 long years. If you're already feeling your heart race, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, because this story only gets more intense from here. As his car sped through the streets, memories flooded back uncontrolled, like a dam finally breaking. 7 years ago, he had loved a woman named Amara Okafor, a bright, warm-spirited woman from Lagos who had come to Korea to study. She had been unlike anyone in his world of cold business deals and calculated marriages. She laughed loudly, she argued fiercely, and she loved him without caring about his family's name or fortune. They had planned to marry. He remembered the night he proposed, down on one knee in the rain, both of them laughing like fools because neither had thought to bring an umbrella. He remembered the promise rings, cheap silver bands they'd bought together because neither wanted to wait for something expensive. Then, without warning, she vanished. He remembered receiving a text message, cold and cutting. "I never loved you. I was only using you to escape poverty. Don't look for me." He remembered the photographs that arrived days later, showing her in the arms of another man. He remembered how his chest had caved in, how he had stopped eating for a week, how his grandmother had comforted him, saying, "She was never right for this family, Ji Seok. You will heal. Time heals everything." Had he been wrong to believe those messages? Had someone been lying to him all along? The car screeched to a halt in front of a small, weathered house with peeling blue paint. Ji Seok didn't wait for the driver to open the door. He burst out and ran toward the entrance, his polished shoes slipping on the gravel path. The door creaked open before he could knock. 3 identical faces stared up at him. Round cheeks, wide brown eyes, skin the warm blend of Korean and African features, unmistakably his own jawline mirrored back at him 3 times over. "You're really him," one of the boys whispered. "You look just like the picture." Ji Seok's knees nearly buckled. "Where is your mother?" The boys led him inside, to a small bedroom where Amara lay unconscious on a worn mattress, her forehead damp with sweat, her breathing shallow. 7 years had aged her, thinned her, but she was still unmistakably the woman he had loved with his entire being. "Call an ambulance," Ji Seok barked at his driver, who had finally caught up. Within minutes, paramedics arrived and Amara was rushed to the nearest hospital, Ji Seok following close behind, the 3 boys clutching his hands the entire ride, refusing to let go. At the hospital, doctors explained that Amara had collapsed from severe exhaustion and malnutrition, the results of working 3 jobs to support triplets alone. Ji Seok's jaw tightened with each word, guilt and fury swirling together inside him. When Amara finally opened her eyes hours later, her gaze landed on Ji Seok sitting beside her bed, and her expression twisted instantly from confusion to fury. "Get out," she rasped, struggling to sit up despite her weakness. "Get out of here right now." "Amara, don't say my name like you have the right to," she snapped, tears springing to her eyes. "I abandoned you. You chose your family's empire over me, and now you dare show your face because my sons made a phone call?" "I never abandoned you," Ji Seok said, his voice breaking. "I received a message saying you never loved me, that you were leaving with someone else. I saw photographs." "Photographs?" Amara's voice cracked with disbelief. "I never sent any such message. I was pregnant and terrified, and you disappeared. Your family's guards blocked me from the estate. Your number stopped working. I waited for you every single day for months until I couldn't afford to wait anymore." The room fell into stunned silence. Both of them stared at each other, hearts pounding, the horrifying realization dawning simultaneously. "Someone lied to both of us," Ji Seok whispered. Outside the door, the triplets peeked through the small window, watching their parents with wide, hopeful eyes. One of them tugged his brother's sleeve and whispered, "Do you think Daddy will stay this time?" Inside the room, the same question hung heavy between the two adults, unanswered. Ji Seok refused to leave the hospital. He arranged for Amara to be transferred to the finest private wing, ignoring her protests, ignoring the stares of nurses who recognized his face from magazine covers. He sat by her bedside every single night, and slowly, cautiously, they began to piece together the timeline of their separation. "Show me the message," Ji Seok said one evening, his laptop open beside him. "The one you claim I never sent." Amara's phone, an old, cracked device she'd kept for years out of stubborn sentimentality, still held the message. Ji Seok read it, his blood running cold. The phrasing was wrong. He never used such cold, clipped language. He never called her just a foreign girl. A phrase he would never have used, a phrase that made his stomach twist with disgust. "This isn't me," he said firmly. "I need to see the photographs you mentioned." Amara hesitated before pulling up an old email attachment, grainy images of Ji Seok with another woman, intimate, damning. Ji Seok studied the photos with narrowed eyes. "This was edited. Look at the shadows. They don't match. And this woman," he pointed, "is my cousin's assistant. We attended a work dinner together, nothing more." Something shatters inside a person when they realized years of grief were built on lies. Ji Seok felt that shattering now, rage boiling beneath his skin. He hired a private investigator that very night, a discreet man named Detective Park, who had helped Haniel Holdings with sensitive matters before. Within days, disturbing details began to surface. First secret. The breakup message had been sent from a burner phone purchased in cash, traced back to a convenience store near the Haniel family estate. Second secret. The photographs had been digitally altered by a freelance graphic designer who was paid through an anonymous account, an account eventually linked to a shell company controlled by someone inside the Han family. Third secret. Hospital records from 7 years ago, documenting Amara's pregnancy visits at a Busan clinic, had been quietly altered and then deleted entirely, erasing any trace that she had ever sought prenatal care under the Han family's insurance. Ji Seok's hands trembled as he read each report. Someone had systematically, meticulously erased Amara and his children from existence. "There's more," Detective Park said grimly during their final meeting. "A former housekeeper from the Han estate reached out to me. She wants to talk, but she's terrified." They met the woman, Mrs. Choi, in a quiet cafe far from prying eyes. She was elderly, her hands shaking as she stirred her tea, refusing to meet Ji Seok's gaze. "I should have said something years ago," she whispered, "but I was afraid. Madame So Hei-rin, your grandmother, she ordered everything. She said the Okafor woman would ruin the family's reputation, that mixed-race children would embarrass the family in front of business partners. She paid men to intercept the phone lines. She hired someone to forge those messages and photographs. She had the hospital records erased through a contact on the hospital board." Ji Seok's whole body went cold, then hot with fury. "My grandmother did this?" Mrs. Choi nodded, tears filling her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Master Ji Seok. I should have told you sooner." If this betrayal is making your blood boil like it did mine writing this, drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in Ji Seok's place. I read every single one. Ji Seok didn't sleep that night. He sat in his car outside the Han family estate for hours, staring up at the mansion that had raised him, that had shaped every value he'd ever held, now revealed as the very place that orchestrated the destruction of his happiness. When morning came, he walked inside without knocking, past startled servants, straight to his grandmother's private sitting room, where she sat, sipping tea as though nothing in the world could touch her. "Grandmother," Ji Seok said, his voice low and dangerous, "we need to talk about Amara Okafor." Madame So Hei-ren's teacup paused halfway to her lips. For a brief moment, something flickered across her composed face, perhaps recognition, even fear, before her expression hardened back into its usual regal mask. "I don't know what you're referring to," she said smoothly. "Don't lie to me," Ji Seok snapped, slamming a folder of evidence on the table between them. Forged messages, altered photographs, deleted hospital records. Mrs. Choi already confessed everything. Silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Finally, his grandmother set down her cup with a deliberate click. "Yes," she said, her voice cold as winter stone. "I did it. All of it." Ji Seok's breath caught in his throat. Hearing the confession aloud felt like being stabbed all over again. Why? How could you destroy an innocent woman's life? How could you hide my own children from me for 7 years? "Because I protected this family," his grandmother snapped, rising to her feet, her composure finally cracking. "Do you understand what would have happened if word spread that the heir to Hanil Holdings fathered mixed-race children with a foreign maid? Our business partners in Seoul, in Tokyo, in New York, they would have laughed us out of every boardroom. Our reputation would have crumbled." "She wasn't a maid," Ji Seok said through gritted teeth. "She was a university student. She was the woman I loved. She was going to be my wife." "She was unsuitable," her grandmother said flatly. "I did what needed to be done. I protected this family's legacy." "No," Ji Seok said, his voice trembling with barely contained rage. "You didn't protect anything. You destroyed it. You destroyed 7 years I can never get back with my sons. You destroyed the woman I loved, forced her into poverty and struggle while we lived in luxury. You destroyed me." Her grandmother's eyes flashed. "Ji Seok, you are the heir to this empire. Do not let sentiment cloud—" "Enough!" Ji Seok roared, silencing the entire room. Servants outside the door flinched at the sound. He turned and walked toward the door, then paused, looking back at the woman who had raised him. "I lost 7 irreplaceable years with my sons because of you," he said quietly, the anger draining into something far more devastating. "Grief. 7 years I will never get back. 7 years Amara suffered alone because of your cruelty. I hope protecting this family's reputation was worth it, grandmother, because you have lost your grandson." He walked out without looking back. We're not even at the halfway point yet. If you want to see whether Ji Seok chooses the empire or his family, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss how this story unfolds. The family elders convened an emergency meeting within days, summoning Ji Seok to the boardroom where he had spent countless hours negotiating deals worth billions. This time, the negotiation was personal. Ji Seok, his uncle said sternly, seated at the head of the long mahogany table, we understand you're upset, but you must think clearly. This scandal, if it becomes public, could devastate our stock prices, our partnerships. There will be no scandal, Ji Seok interrupted calmly, because I intend to make it public myself. Gasps rippled around the table. Have you lost your mind? Another elder demanded. You would willingly destroy this family's reputation? This family already destroyed itself. I am simply refusing to be part of the cover-up any longer. Think about your inheritance, his uncle pressed, leaning forward. Think about the position you've worked your entire life to secure. Are you willing to throw all of that away for a woman and 3 illegitimate children? Ji Seok's eyes darkened. They are not illegitimate. They are my sons. And yes, I am willing to throw all of this away because none of it, the money, the empire, the power, none of it ever made me happy the way 5 minutes with my sons did. He removed a folded letter from his jacket pocket and placed it on the table. My formal resignation, he said, effective immediately. I relinquish all claims to Hanel Holdings and my inheritance. The room erupted into chaos, voices shouting over one another, but Ji Seok simply turned and walked out, feeling lighter than he had in 7 years. By evening, the news had exploded across every media outlet in South Korea. Hanel Holdings heir resigns amid family scandal. Reporters camped outside the family estate. Business analysts speculated wildly about the company's future. Ji Seok ignored every phone call, every message, every reporter shouting questions as he drove straight to the hospital where Amara was still recovering. She was sitting up in bed, watching the news broadcast with wide, disbelieving eyes when he walked in. You actually did it, she whispered. You gave up everything. I didn't give up everything, Ji Seok said softly, sitting beside her bed. I gained everything that actually matters. I gained the chance to know my sons. I gained the chance to make things right with you, if you'll let me. Amara studied him for a long moment, tears welling in her eyes. Do you understand what I went through? 7 years of struggling alone, working 3 jobs, being turned away from decent apartments because I was a single foreign mother with triplets. 7 years of my sons asking why they didn't have a father like other children. I understand, Ji Seok said, his own eyes filling with tears, and I will spend every day trying to make up for it, even if it takes the rest of my life. Amara said nothing, but she didn't ask him to leave either. If this emotional roller coaster has you hooked, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The healing journey is just beginning, and you don't want to miss what happens next. The following months were not easy. Ji Seok moved into a modest apartment near Amara's neighborhood, refusing any financial help from his family, determined to rebuild his life from nothing, just as Amara had been forced to do. He found work as a business consultant, using his skills to support himself honestly, without relying on his family's name. Slowly, carefully, he began integrating himself into his sons' lives. He picked them up from school every afternoon, standing awkwardly among the other parents at first, unsure how to hold a conversation with a group of chattering mothers and fathers. He learned to cook simple meals, burning rice more times than he cared to admit, much to his son's amusement. Mr. Han, you burned it again, one of the boys laughed, one evening, waving away smoke from the kitchen. Give me time, Ji Seok said, laughing despite himself, something he hadn't done freely in years. I'll get it right eventually. The boys still called him Mr. Han most days, careful, guarded, unwilling to fully trust the man who had suddenly appeared in their lives. Ji Seok understood their hesitation and never pushed. Instead, he simply showed up, day after day, week after week, proving through consistency what words alone could never accomplish. Amara watched from a careful distance, her heart slowly softening despite years of hardened defenses. She saw how patient he was with the boys, how he never lost his temper even when they tested him, how he sat through hours of homework help without complaint. One evening, after the boys had fallen asleep, Amara found Ji Seok sitting on her small porch, staring up at the stars. "You didn't have to give up everything," she said quietly, sitting beside him. "Yes, I did. None of it meant anything without you and the boys. I spent 7 years thinking I was building an empire, but I was really just building an empty life." Amara was quiet for a long moment. "I forgive you," she finally whispered. "I know none of this was your fault. I was angry for so long, but I understand now. We were both victims of the same lie." Ji Seok reached for her hand, hesitant, and when she didn't pull away, something inside his chest finally began to heal. Their relationship rebuilt slowly, tentatively, like a garden regrowing after a harsh winter. They shared quiet dinners together as a family, took the boys to the park on weekends, and Ji Seok never once complained about his drastically reduced circumstances, finding more joy in a simple bowl of rice shared with his sons than he ever had at extravagant banquets. Meanwhile, news of the scandal continued to unfold publicly. Investigative journalists uncovered further evidence of Madame Sehe-rin's manipulations, and public opinion turned sharply against the Han family matriarch. Business partners, uncomfortable with the negative publicity, began quietly withdrawing from deals with Hanil Holdings. The very reputation she had fought so desperately to protect crumbled around her, ironically because of her own actions. Isolated and disgraced, Madame Sehe-rin remained in the family estate, her power diminished, her family fractured, her grandson estranged. She had sacrificed everything to protect an image, only to lose the very family she claimed to be protecting. We're almost at the emotional climax of this story. If you've made it this far, comment below with one word describing how you're feeling right now. 6 months after Ji Seok's resignation, autumn arrived in Busan, painting the streets in warm shades of amber and gold. The triplets had grown more comfortable with Ji Seok's presence, occasionally slipping and calling him daddy before quickly correcting themselves, still unsure if it was allowed. One crisp October afternoon, while helping his son Daniel with a school project, Ji Seok knelt beside the small table, guiding his hand carefully. "Like this?" Daniel asked, glancing up. "Exactly like that," Ji Seok said warmly, smiling down at his son. Daniel studied him for a moment, then said softly, almost hesitantly, "Dad, do you think you'll stay forever this time?" Ji Seok's heart nearly stopped. He set down the pencil and turned fully to face his son. "Forever," he said firmly, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise you I am never leaving again." Daniel smiled shyly, then called out to his brothers, "David! Dylan! Daddy says he's staying forever!" The other 2 boys came running, tackling Ji Seok in an enthusiastic hug that nearly knocked him over. For the first time, all 3 called him daddy without hesitation, without correction, simply accepting the truth their hearts had known all along. Amara watched from the kitchen doorway, tears streaming silently down her face, overwhelmed by the scene before her. The family she had once believed was permanently broken, finally healing before her eyes. We're almost at the finish line. Make sure you've liked this video because the ending is about to break your heart in the best way possible. The following month, the boys' school announced its annual Father's Day celebration, an event where children would stand proudly beside their fathers in front of the entire school community. For years, the triplets had dreaded this day, watching classmates celebrate with their fathers while they had no one to stand beside them. This year was different. Ji Seok arrived early, dressed simply in a plain button-up shirt and slacks, nothing like the tailored suits he once wore to boardroom meetings. He stood nervously among the other fathers, his heart pounding as the ceremony began. When the announcer called for children to find their fathers, Ji Seok watched anxiously as his sons scanned the crowd. Then, All three broke into wide grins and sprinted toward him, weaving through the crowd of parents. "That's our daddy," David shouted joyfully, loud enough for the entire auditorium to hear. "That's our daddy right there." Daniel and Dylan echoed the declaration, wrapping their arms around Ji Seok's legs, beaming up at him with unrestrained pride and joy. The crowd of parents turned to look, some recognizing Ji Seok's face from the scandal that had dominated headlines months earlier. Whispers rippled through the audience, but Ji Seok paid them no mind. He knelt down, gathering all three boys into his arms, tears streaming freely down his face. "I'm so proud to be your daddy," he whispered, his voice breaking with emotion. Amara stood at the edge of the crowd, watching the scene unfold, tears sliding down her cheeks as well. 7 years of pain, struggle, and heartbreak seemed to dissolve in that single moment, replaced by an overwhelming sense of hope and healing. After the ceremony ended, the family walked together toward the parking lot, the setting sun casting warm golden light across the schoolyard. Ji Seok paused, pulling out his phone. "Let's take a picture," he said softly, "our first family photo." Amara smiled, gathering the boys close together as Ji Seok held out his phone, capturing the image of the family finally reunited, the setting sun behind them, symbolizing not an ending, but a brand new beginning. He had lost an empire worth billions, a legacy built over generations, a position of immense power and prestige. But in its place, he had gained something infinitely more valuable, a family that truly loved him, a chance to be present in his sons' lives, and the woman he had never stopped loving despite 7 years of separation and lies. As they walked home that evening, the boys chattering excitedly about the day's events, Ji Seok reached for Amara's hand, and this time she held on tightly, without hesitation, without fear. The empire was gone, but the family remained, stronger, more resilient, and more deeply bonded than any business empire could ever hope to be. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories just like this one, and drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment. Your support means everything, and it helps this channel keep bringing you these stories every single week. Thank you so much for watching until the very end, and I'll see you in the next story.